Outlining is something that all of us need help with. Maybe yours has looked like this. But not everyone can create an outline just from thinking it through. So now I'm going to ask you to tear one piece of paper into threes and take the middle piece, which is the larger piece, and again tear it into three pieces. As we work, I'll ask you, what are the 3 points you'd like to make about this speech? As you can see, you label it as this is. We'll tear it together one more time, and this will be in threes. And as you can see, it actually creates subpoints. Good luck.
Hi.
Hey, Essie. Hi, Naomi. What's up?
I'm having a little bit of trouble. I've been outlining and outlining and outlining, and I have all these ideas, but I don't know how to put them into an outline and everything.
I'm done.
So the outlining was okay for you?
Yep, I got it all done, and I was able to plan everything out, and I did it.
Yeah, it's just really difficult because she doesn't really know how to explain to me how to do it, so I'm kind of just lost on this end. So.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question too, Naomi. Do you tend to have a clean closet?
Yeah.
Do you organize your closet?
Yeah, it's color-coded.
With hangers that match?
Well, unless my family takes them.
Okay. So, you know what? There are some people that really deal with organization really, really well. And Essie, how about you? Do you tend to organize your closet and like things ordered?
It's a mess.
Do you prefer to have things a little more creatively flowing? Okay. So, you know, sometimes one of the things that we have problems with is we compare ourselves to our best friends or our peers or classmates, or we do what one teacher tells us and we do it the entire way through. So you probably learned how to write a paper or how to go about brainstorming from one teacher, and then you pull it into your next class, which is great. But then the new teacher tells you to do it a different way, and on we go. And so sometimes it can get really frustrating because you have all these ideas and, you know, it doesn't always work. So what works for one person may not work for the next person. So I want to show you a technique, and Naomi, even though you already organized your speech, I want you to try this anyway. And so if you guys want to just take out a piece of paper, each one of you. And we're going to try doing an activity. What I have found is sometimes it works best to actually do a speech versus write a speech. And Naomi, this may be something that you just learned that might help you if you get frustrated. Essie, it may be something that always helps you, and it may help neither of you. But I'm just going to show you how this works and just see if it works for you. So what I'm going to ask you to do is take your paper, and I want you to tear it apart in threes. And I want you to tear this much on each of the edge. Okay. And Naomi, a little bit further up. So, yep, just like Essie. All right. So what we're going to do is each of those parts are the parts of your speech. And what are the 3 parts of your speech?
Beginning, middle, and end.
Beginning, middle, and end, and we call them an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. Okay, so the two parts on the sides, those are your intro and your conclusion. So get rid of those right now. Go ahead, put those just on your notebooks. Great. And we're not going to worry about that. Those represent your introduction and conclusion, and you don't need to focus on those right away. So sometimes when you're writing a speech, do you find this is happening, that you sit there and say, hey, how should I begin, how should I begin, how should I begin? And I'll tell you the truth, my husband, he writes a lot, and his technique is to come up with the first sentence. And when he has the first sentence, he can go. And he can write, and he can write, and he can write. Now, I could never do that. I need to come up with a number of different ideas.
That's how I am, I think.
Okay. And so it's like you have a clear vision, you think about it, and then you go for it.
Yep.
It just so happens that my husband is more introverted. How about you, Naomi? Are you more introverted?
Mix.
A little mix?
Yep.
Okay. And so some people who can think about and tune into things internally, that can happen through a thought process, and it's a really good thing, and embrace it if it works for you. And that's what college in this class is about, is just coming up with different ideas, different techniques to find your voice and to figure out how things are going to work for you in other classes and in other life experiences. Now, Essie, for you, do you find that sometimes just talking things through helps more than writing it down or thinking it through?
Yeah.
Okay. And that oftentimes is true for extroverts, and I think you're kind of like me in that way, a little bit more extroverted. And so unlike my husband, I can't just think of it. I need to actually physically do it. I'll even go down there and sit talking to him or my kids, my dog, whatever, and I'll just talk through these ideas, and then after I've done that, then maybe I can go back and work on it. So just remember, first of all, there's different ways to approach this, and that oftentimes happens because of our personality types. What I'm going to ask you to do is now tear this body of your speech into 3 parts, and they'll represent...
equal parts?
Yeah, equal parts. Well, that's so much for balancing your main points. Okay, so what you want to do is think about these 3 main points as being
criticizing me.
your main points of your speech. And what I want you to do is think about that, again, the intro speech, and 3 reasons why that object best represents you, and just write it on each of the pieces of paper. Write 1 on 1. And if you don't know the reasons, obviously this will take longer, but since you've already been working on it and just working on now how to organize it into an outline, hopefully that'll work. Okay, now sometimes I find that if you think of having to give your entire speech at once, then that becomes a problem too. So what we're going to do is we're going to take only one of those and put the other 2 back on your notebook, so just one at a time. Okay, and so what is your object, Essie, that you're going to use for your speech?
A comb.
Okay, and Naomi, your object?
My billfold.
Okay, and what reason do you have there as far as why it represents you? What do you have written down?
Because it's like diverse. It's full of like different kinds of objects.
Okay, diversity, great. That's really creative. Essie, how about you?
For mine, like, lots of people comb their hair for the shine, and like, as a comb helps hair shine, like I like to help other people shine.
Great. Okay, good. These are excellent. This is exactly where I want you to go with the speech, and it's very difficult for folks usually. So now what I want you to do is to tear that piece of paper into 3. It should be like 3 equal.
But I already wrote the first part.
That's okay. You have to unorganize your closet here, Naomi. It can be difficult for people. And flip it to the other side if not. Now what I want you to do is on the back of it, I want you to explain this. And the first is I want you to tell me just what are 3 questions that you can come up with, or 3 ideas that would help explain that reason. Okay, so what you come up with, Essie?
Well, I do things like highlight other people and like building people up, and then having integrity, so that like helps back that up.
Okay. Do you see how you're starting to make what we call support materials for your main point?
Yeah.
These now are actually your subpoints. Do you remember in the outline how we talked about main points and then we talked about subpoints? These would be your subpoints. And now what I would ask you to do if we were doing a larger speech would be to tear those up one more time into 3s. But, you know, I think you get the idea, and we could continue to do so. And by doing this kind of tearing up the papers and actually physically writing on this, it can actually help someone. Another way to approach this, like when you mentioned integrity, Essie, it's kind of hard for people to know what you mean by integrity. And if you were to give the speech and say, I'm like a cone because I like people to shine, I have 3 reasons why, 1, 2, and 3, and you state those ones, it's probably only going to take you a few seconds to say that, right? And so what you want to do is also say why, when, where, how, just like a reporter, who, what, where, when, why, and how. And so sometimes doing these 3 teardowns like this, you might say, what do I mean? What does the analogy mean? Number 2, when has this happened? And 3, what can other people understand from this? Or some sort of parallel structure like that. And you could do it for each of them, or you could freestyle like you have been doing. But these are just some ways that you might go about moving your ideas from actually a brainstorming process into brainstorming more the order. And what I'd like to do next is just we're going to go over to the classroom anyway. Why don't I use your examples for class, and we'll put them up on the board as far as how these ideas actually make it into a speech. Sound like an idea? So as you can see through this simple activity of really tearing up your paper, you are actually doing a speech, not writing a speech. And through this process, the kinesthetic learners, the extroverts, might find it more useful than a traditional outline.